Well, as we're sitting here at the LTV on this beautiful morning, indeed a beautiful, actually early morning. I love to be here in the mornings. Tuesday morning, March 26th, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And my name is Haim Mizrahi, continuing with the tradition of public access. And I found this cap of mine that I was kind of missing for a while. I kind of like it, regardless of what it says here or whatever, but it just kind of agrees with me. Yes, continuing with the tradition of public access and the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been on the air since 1980, the early days of inception of that concept that was alien then in 1980, 44 years ago. And of course, the tradition of the Hello Hello Show that's been there since 1980, and of course, not to fail to mention the contribution by Fraser Dougherty, Francis Ann, and of course the likes of you that were supportive of the concept and followers of the founder and those who were the pioneers almost 5 decades ago. They were relentless in how they handled the town and Cablevision and all of the things that we take for granted as a given now that were um, brought to life by the effort uh, that happened to be second to none of some few individuals out there in the distant past, in the not so distant past. So through that speaker of availability that gives us a sense of a relief and therefore freedom, and sense of freedom and therefore relief. It's it's in itself a concept that is um, I just wanted to, you know what, I'm going, because I have this idea in my head I want to share with you this morning, but I have to do this because it will be like as if, yeah, this is actually good. Um, um so the narrow tubes of the early stages where we were not only concerned because rightfully you should be concerned, you kind of want to make sure everything works well. These are the early stages, and you want to play it safe, and you want to make sure that you cross those kind of first, second, third steps into a second, third stage that will be fluent and without any delays, because the real work lies um, ahead of us. And that's so we need to kind of arrive to that zone intact and to be able to ask the questions, give the answers by attending to questions and wonderings of life, of whatever it is that surrounds us. Sometimes we tend to feel very annoyed when another person wants to know more about us or about that which we are engaged in, um, and sometimes sometimes because I cannot give the short answer, I personally actually I feel uncomfortable, and I don't like to feel uncomfortable in front of people, because obviously it won't be fair to them to give them whatever, just it leads to negativity, it leads to causing delays and pausing unnecessarily prematurely in the business. And I use the word business not because I think of profits, but in the business of art, you really have to be to reinvent the word um, um, uh, I would say focus, concentration, uh, dedication, perseverance, and so much more of the likes of it that is actually on the coherent level. I mean, not that we we like the mystery behind it and the magic behind it, but 98% of it is head, is calculations, is planning, and even though down the road you will start believing that maybe most of what it is that you were preparing so meticulously along the decades suddenly can be achieved, and you can get to the same results in all this with bypassing at least half of the turns or the. I think even those that are even extremely innovative can get caught in this situation where they knowingly continuing to pursue the longer way, the more tedious way, the more demanding way, the more punishing way, the more challenging way, even though it can only be challenged to a certain extent. I um I thought to myself in this kind of connotation, in this relationship to the concept where you want to be ahead of yourself because it will be actually very soothing and satisfying to suddenly encounter yourself greeting you from the other side, from the other end, and without realizing that maybe you kind of have to rub your eyes because you're not seeing right. You greeting you from the future into the safety net of your present. But so your system should be like my system is kind of compatible with it. So what happens when it takes place? There's an immediate, automatic, quick process of adaptation. So the landing is not that severe, and it's borderline crash landing. It's not crash landing, and the adjustments and adaptation into creating a very 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 basic routine. And and when I say very 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 very, I mean it's like basic 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 routine 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 routine, very basic routine. Uh, that will prove itself to be absolutely crucial down the road when you start feeling like you're a part of something interesting and important, because sophistication it kicks in and complexity is the order of the day. Um, it's like quantity is quality. Let's go get him kind of thing. I came from the uh, the family of of I mean the artistic family of exaggeration. And what do I mean by saying that? I mean, I mean, I mean that in the early stages of myself finding myself being an artist, I realized that I really uh, uh, I will benefit from it. I think I will benefit from it if I was to actually, as I'm experimenting, try to do almost 100% of it on the surface, meaning the contemplation is done in a different way. Reflections are done in a different way. The mix between the spiritual and the emotional um, is going to be handled in a different way. The greeting of the psyche, and all the way from melancholia through excitement, and all the way to exuberance, or exuberance all the way to exciting, all the way to morbid. Um, so there is a, a a certain must, that we want to always find out that actually, indeed, wherever it is that we are, that we think that we know so much about what we're doing, do we ever stop to check if it's working? People don't do that. I don't do that often until lately I kind of started becoming aware of it. But wait a second, maybe I hit record, but it shows me that it's recording, but it's not recording. But that is to say that now and then you have to take an indirect pause. So you're tricking yourself into a certain obligation, chore, responsibility, keeping you busy with some kind of a physiological scenario or technical scenario, a professional scenario. The how am I going to roll from this triolic single stroke roll into the zone of the double stroke paradiddle with an accent on the second level, on the second note. Um, and like my teacher used to and then he's taking he always tried to explain to me the difference between this and this. So if he was singing so with that forward, and you're talking about Kenwood Denard. Kenwood Denard is uh, he's one of the earlier uh, powerhouse in the 80s, performing with Bush Rock, Richard T. I don't even remember who was the bass player was. I think you'll see fine or something like that. So when I encountered Kenwood Denard in one of his concerts, and I was sitting right next to him with my friend glued, maybe 2-3 feet away, and and in my eyes, it was like there is no way that a person, a living creature like myself and all the others surrounding me, can perform like this. It was so incredible. It was like almost like it borders with the impossibility. I took away from it. I was 19. I was a soldier then. In one of my outings, I went to see the Bushrock in Jerusalem in late 70s. That's crazy. And then you see Kenwood and Nod and Richard T. And I saw them also at Lone Star. I think it's like 15 and 5th. No longer exist. I think it was Lone Star. I saw Richard T. with Pastorius or something like weird, crazy in the very early 80s in New York City. So I take notes. I took notes then. I took notes in 1979, 78, 79 when Stan Getz came with Billy Hart to Jerusalem to perform. Can you believe it? 1980, 1979. And I could reach and I can approach Billy Hart, one of the greatest drummers of that era, and he would just like absolutely accommodate me with his attention, inviting him to our studio of drumming and percussion, and he showed up, and almost like things that you can't take for granted because these are world-renowned individuals. They got other things in their minds, on their minds, than to. But it was so. I took notes of seeing Kenwood Denard, and exactly 6 years later, I took lessons with him in the Bronx. No, actually, Spanish Harlem, 104th and First, and I took 8 months straightforward, 4 times a month. So I took about 30, 32, 35 lessons with him, and it was uh, uh, eh, shaking experiences. Um, in order to survive the sessions with such a drummer in the level that I was, and I was like early 20s, I literally had to lie all the time to every time you asked me if I understand what he's relating to, and I never said no. I always said yes, whether I knew or not. I always said yeah. I just wanted to survive the sessions because I was getting so much energy from him and so much assurance that this is how it feels to be him. He did not make it difficult for you to begin to understand what it means to be him. So now you're like standing across from him for an hour and a half at a time, full attention to you, trying to explain to you. He used to try to explain to me the simplistic aspect of form taken with the utmost level of seriousness, with time, that you have to. He had this thing about metronome and hitting with the metronome for, counting 100 and seeing how many times you hit before the beat, how many times you hit on the beat, how many times you hit after the beat. He was like a scientist. It was incredible indication. It's almost like he's taking your heart blood pressure. You come in, he's doing that 100 session. So you're doing with the thing in the metronome, and he's taking notes. So he said, okay, you hit the note 56 times, you hit after the note 24 times, you hit before the note 20 times. And then halfway through, he will do it again. And then at the end, he will do it again. Always, of course, at the end, no matter what happened, you will be like 76 on the note, and 12 after, and 12 and 12 before. That's an improvement of 30% within an hour and a half being with him. But because most of it I stood no chance to understand, because he was so ahead of myself, and he was really generous in trying to give me, maybe thinking that, fortunately for me, he thought what he thought, that led him to believe that it's it that it that it makes sense that this guy's in front of me. I'm sure he knew that I knew nothing, kind of thing, even though I was a drummer. But being a drummer and being with an artist, a whole different story. So he used to be he was the pioneer, I think, of the modern times, where he would put two keyboards on the drum set, and he would have some level of kind of a primitive singing and all that. But the thing is that it's the coordination. But the presentation number one is the percussion, is the acoustic drum set. He made it metallically sounding, not by tuning, but by attitude of playing. It was unbelievable. I was there to witness all this. And sometimes I would feel like lightheaded, because it's like the moment is really draining me, because I'm maybe overdoing by trying to pay attention, as more than I should, really. I was kind of inhaling without exhaling, exhaling without inhaling. And I took away from it. This is that many years later, 30 years later, um, 35 years later. I took away from it that which I used so many times since when I first encountered myself in front of a canvas, trying to tell a story and trying to follow all the guidelines that I myself created, and trying to put together a coherent tower of some sort, a device that always walk you through its own cycle, in order to make sure that you're still intact and compatible with what it means to be considered as a part of this scheme, scenario, sorting, um, um, closed-in space, contained environment. And I took my notes with me for years, and for years I never actually find myself that picking it up from where I left it that many years ago, and trying to address, deciding this is the right time, and for the right reason, that I'm going to look at that. Until it really happened, when it was a no-brainer that I know I'm going there. I didn't even have to go there. It came to me. And then it directed itself to the potential of that configuration, that it had a desire for it to be the kind of leading suggestion, leading sample, leading gestures of basic wanting of that shape, wanting of that design, wanting of that composition. So these notes are forming the ability to be able to begin with to speak about it all, if it all is, will be just like understanding what the individual is doing. Ability to perform maybe 2 out of 100 for myself. I mean, 4 decades ago. Now I'm in in a position where I can unravel everything, and suddenly I can look in the face of that which Kim Nard instilled in me, within me, and I can understand without any doubt what is the nature of that face expression, that this composition of achievements laid in front of me is all about. What does it? So that means the level of my compatibility for discussion increased so 100-fold that today these notes that I took, that I've already found myself multiple times benefiting from their existence in my life by way of recollection and by way of how I perform on the musical instrument, things, and on the behalf of the interactions, that many interactions with a master, with a global international master, second to none, one of a kind. So what is preventing me from taking everything? These are treasures, one treasure after the other, endlessly pouring and finding and heading towards it, the concept that leads us to realize that that which we are engaged in, that which we are doing, is on the behalf of a of a of knowledge, indeed, that first and foremost that's taking place, and then of course you free yourself to relate to the concept, to relate to the usage of information and experience, accumulation of information and accumulation of experience, both of them together, deadly combination. What stops me from taking that which I encountered with a master himself for long enough to say that I got something out of the master that makes me his partner? And I have no problems to show for this statement. So it won't be difficult for me to justify it and to rationalize it if need be. But what stops me from taking it exactly to the canvas or to the written word that give me a suggestion that is always interpretable, in, interpretable, to be sliced to so many slices. It's not even funny sometimes, the quantity. And if you're a person like me, you're never intimidated by quantity, because if you establish uh, that quantity is quality, then of course it's a no-brainer. You're doing it, and you can let the world wonder how come and why, but you're doing it because you're doing it, and you have your own understandings, and back and forth in the game of the rationale behind things, and what is acceptable in your eyes, what is tolerable in your eyes. How do you proceed on the basis of what you know, on the basis of those decisions that you keep on constantly making? And that's how it works. So what stops me from taking it to the metaphor, either in its early stages or deep into the forest of search, especially emotional search, because uh, spiritually we have to be able to know where we are. I mean, I know that spiritually I'm the most stable, so I can always find refuge there, even when other aspects of my encounters are delayed. It'll take a little while longer for them to show up, and then you have to keep the show going. The show must go on, even though I think it's ridiculous statement. The show must go on. Is something lacking due to our need to say it? And I think, and I think now and then I can get the answer to it, but it's so elusive. If I don't write it or document it, it's gone, and I never have time to write it, because by the time I go to write it, it's gone. But uh, the show must go on means really that some kind of a remedy for complacency, um, remedy for potential slowdowns, and all these things that are kind of really kind of unacceptable. Not to be harsh, because we want to handle everything very gently, but it's it's artistically harsh, creatively harsh, to kind of the demand, the kind of demands that you would expect yourself to hear yourself demanding, hear yourself wanting to get answers to, uh, answers for, answers about. Uh, what stops me from taking that experience that is united with so many things I can't even begin to tell you, complete on so many levels I can't even begin to describe to you, and wholesome in aspects that stretches so far away that I don't even dare to think that I can explain it to you. But for you to feel all of these three levels at any way, shape, or form is really up to you. And not only that you can, you of course you will do, and you will do at your time, because no restrictions, there's no ownership over it. It's available, it's accessible, and then you realize that the problem was never the fact that that which we desired so much wasn't accessible. It was that uh, it, that we didn't know enough about it to have the privilege to handle it, because we just had no knowledge. This is a game we knew not the rules of. We could never play it the way it's supposed to be played, plain and simple. But who says that I cannot take it to the canvas and dictate an immediate uh, an immediate occurrence, whatever it is that follows it, that will end up in applications that gives us slowly but surely a form with a soul, a, a punctual literature and sublime poetry and defined structure, minus its rigidity. Sounds good, doesn't it? Also real, if you think about it. That rigidity is a quality that you can't miss out on. You know, you can't. You can't pretend for a second that it's not there. It's too big to have second thoughts when it comes to thinking about it, or thinking what is it all about, and how are we going to go about it, and what are we going to do with it, and what it is going to do with us. So who said that I cannot take it and apply it and travel with it across all these distances to end up where it will end up, where it's supposed to end up, and there will be just an automatic given on how things should be taking place and operate and happen and all this. Absolutely, there's in the depth of the world of improvisation. There's very very demanding frozen structure of strict rules that otherwise it's just there's no way even to begin to think that is worth our time, because the odds wouldn't look good. It would never lie to you, and you don't have to be anything or anyone special or possessed with special forces in order to be able to read that and to see that composition clear that tells you the story, and then you know automatically what you need to know, and you know that whatever decision you're making is the right one. Because it's just, sometimes you get lucky, you get enough information, and therefore you prevail more often than not. You succeed to not, and to also, but to not there, especially to not go there, to not think this way, to not uh, do it this way, to not decide to say yes, to not, also, on as opposed to the do continue to pay attention to this detail that you're just contemplating and abandoning now, and you insist to see that it's been done now, at least once. You insist to see someone else, yourself, doesn't matter. Now, okay, so now it has to happen, and usually it does. And you look at the individual and you say, "Son of a gun, you know, you're really doing a good job." And then we're talking about 30 seconds, yeah. And there's a whole world of appreciation being formed instantly towards the other, or towards the other that happens to you to be you, within you, alongside you, in front of you, and vice versa. That which is in front of you is within the person that spells all the ingredients that makes you who you are as a person, as an entity, as a body, as a flesh, as a spirit, as a wind, as all this. So yes, I borrowed it. Now when I do it, I know I borrow it. Before, I thought I was borrowing it, but it wasn't like that. But it didn't become to be an issue because actually I got to a point where I own it outright, eh, fully paid for. And therefore, I can really extend the list that speaks for what it is that this concept is compatible with. So you can suddenly find out that you can actually stretch it much further away than you thought only a minute ago that you could. Now we're talking about distances like when you need 3 gigabytes, you come with 5 terabytes, like even though it can 5 terabytes can be nothing, but it's not nothing. And 3 gigabytes is not nothing. My first computer wasn't even 1 gigabyte. It was pushing for 1 giga. It was so retarded, this computer, compared to today. But in the same token, it was the most open, free spirited concept entity, gatherings of thoughts, gatherings of these energies that form groups of uh, um, whatever was invented before first aid, the old version of first aid, whatever. You hit your head, slam it with a towel soaked with cold water and whatever it is. I'm just so yeah. You want 3 gigabyte, you get 5 terabyte right there. Don't bother me for the next friggin' 37 years. And let's see if you can fill it up doing what you're doing. That doesn't require much really storage or need for memory, but whatever it is, if you think that it does, let's see you handling it. And then 37 years later, you come and you say, you know what, I'm going to add about 60, whatever, 5 years more. Don't bother me. Yeah, you're talking about 100 years worth of information gathered, maybe into 1 or 2 terabyte, while you're having 5 terabyte. Good, compatible. So now, in the moment of truth, you really see the all white surface looking at you, threatening you, pleading with you, sweet talking you, shaking you, being annoying, being demanding, being obnoxious, being rough, being aggressive, being intimidating. The environment, the immediate environment of that space that you find yourself once you instantly realize what it is that you need to do, and then therefore you found yourself in the right place, and then that right place is is um, its most natural environment to be, where it is now, and where it came from in order to get here, and where it's about to leave here to get to. It all makes sense if you have if your attention span is worthy of these kind of uh, basic encounters that are taking place, that you need to kind of be there just to make sure that traffic goes to where it needs to go, or where people need to go, that you being there guiding the traffic will be useful, because there are signs and there are waves and ways and there's everything, but suddenly you're there. Okay, so now we're really sure that we're going to get to our destination, because we have so much help, and suddenly you're there, and you're a human being, and we get to be able to relate in a proper way, for at least for a minute, because it travels so fast. And but you'll take away from that too. You'll take away from everything. I trust that you will. And there's certain things that when you take away from it and you manage to store it and just make it available when you need it, it is immensely helpful. It is out of this world helpful. It is just unbelievably not to be conceived and understood how effective and yielding and yet demanding answers. Suddenly you see this formidable beast, vessel, vehicle, kind of showing a face that you feel a little shaken, because you have a feeling that this is like something that you're not familiar with. And it just so happened to be that you don't like to be in situations where you cannot don't quite know how it's going to go, how it's going to end up. Not good for you. You, at least that, you see, within me, I have this quality. It's like I, 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 I allow certain things to freak out and to panic, uh, when you have a feeling of something is approaching your way really fast, going to close in on you. I mean, really, you don't even say fast; it's clashing. So, but because you find yourself where you do, the clash is inevitable, but it won't happen so fast and so abruptly. I mean, it's giving you a chance to do whatever it is that you think you need or could do, and so you can kind of be bailed out from the eventual scenario where you'll just turn to become dust at best if you're lucky. So it's preventable, of course, and you know better, and you know how to do it, and you will do it. But then remember that when you get to your destination, you will feel so ridiculous for thinking so much about what it really means to arrive to your destination, especially if it's a meaningful trip. But in my eyes, any trip of any kind is will sit in the same category. And what why is it that I would think under any kind of probability that I cannot actually take it from this pile and add it to this pile and add it to a pile that maybe is needy of whatever it is that I'm transferring, and then instantly incredible things happen because it's like it's been stuck for quite a while. Now you figured it out. You've you realize what kind of uh, what it needs. Uh, you figured it out pretty accurately, and upon impact, results are just like wow, from 0 to 100. It's happening. You see it. It's clear, and it's in sync with things that are already extremely familiar to you. Now you happen to be an incredible veteran uh, that happens not to be aware that he or she are veterans, but that's a subject in itself. But it's um, it, it's like a no-brainer. It's a given, kind of, when you hear that. When someone says that, you can relate to it because m- mostly you agree with it because you know the ins and out of the daggers that await you on this journey, especially if you're like myself, constantly on a journey. But it's not a journey that will consume you because you're so the way you kind of go into this repetition of grinding. It's because it's uh, it's intense. Its nature is intense. The subject matter is intense. When you speak of the, the the concept of the love of wisdom that becomes philosophy, and then we're second guessing that concept that philosophy should be that which loves wisdom, otherwise it will loses its rightful definition or a position in the scheme of things in the world. I mean, it's like kind of ridiculous because it's kind of working against the concept of philosophy in order to maintain philosophy itself. So, so you can realize that, and why can't you realize it? And you will actually eventually, maybe faster and sooner than you think, standing in front of your canvas if you happen to be an artist, or the writing pad or iPad or what kind, or your acoustic drum set or your piano or just in or any kind of rhythm related instrument, which happens to be all rhythms combined. But then, yeah, you uh, maybe already in such a good place already to begin with that A, you can read instructions in a more efficient way and faster. B, you can implement so much more at the same time on so many levels because you gathered enough experience, you did it enough times, you were patient enough to see through the process and to keep a straight face when it's so crucial. Indeed, when it's so crucial because it's a make it or break it. That's why so many processes so prematurely suddenly stop in the middle of the highway. They don't even get out of the car. They just stay there. They're scared, traffic's going like crazy. But they just abruptly stop. Got to but so that's okay if indeed you have achieved and you earned uh, and you came with the right number and you're like a part of the family already. And then we're talking about something completely different. Even though within you, you won't feel the difference at all because you're just going to continue. Thank God that you will continue to be who you already are. And by the way, now and then you will just be generous enough to say, and I want, I would like to add this too. And now we start. Yes, this is when the session starts. This I'm talking about you and yourselves and me and myself and he and himself, and it's all the same. If you sharpen, if you can decide to sharpen the abilities of your approach technique, in any way you decide it, that has nothing to do with whether with the right thing or the wrong thing or the right way or the wrong way, even though they are. But you already know that you know, and you already know that you will always be true to yourself. So you're gonna make the decisions that are according to that level of truth and honesty. Okay. Now, and then again, it can be, and then again, it can be exactly the opposite. But if you have the same attitude, it wouldn't feel different just because two different subject matters are uh, in in discussion right now or under discussion right now or being related to right now. Doesn't matter. It will feel the same. So it all lies in that energy, in that kind of attitude that you know already 100% so much about because you're already an artist, established artist, and there's no way in the world that you haven't gone through this process before. As a condition to get to where you are, there's no way that you are where you are without going through all the things that qualified you to be who you are. So if I know better about you, then you can definitely stand a great chance to know better about you than me knowing better about you. So I transport in order to transfer. I brought it through this journey, and I didn't necessarily felt the burden or the weight. I didn't even know that something extra is traveling with me. But I got I got to where I am today, and suddenly Kenwood Denard is more like within me or the likes of him. I'd like to say, hang around for an extra 5 minutes. I got a few things I want to share with you, things like that. Okay. And then come up with the uh, creating a sub territory and denying access completely while the main territory is at full steam. Life, creativity, investment, concentration, goodwill, commitment, experience, art, all these different levels of staging, music, rhythm, all this short verse, long verse, storytelling poetry, you know, short stories, like writing, you know, uh, and simple sessions give birth to such complicated concept. It's such almost like an uselessly demanding, even though I don't want to say uselessly because I think it's nothing. I'm just saying, just like this is technically speaking. Uh, and you happen to be there throughout all these events, and I even dare say you happen to be buried there, and or you happen to be stuck there. Uh, you happen to be there to the fullest to the fullest extent of what it really means to. So I take the level of commitment of my teacher, my mentor, and I copy paste it onto wherever it is that I need some filling, and it's there. And I humble myself. I bring myself to the right size that I need to be. I don't want to draw any attention. I want to get all of my attention together to spearhead the surface and to uh, claim a new territory and make it mine, make it ours. Um, because the ins and outs are going to be extremely frequent. There's going to be action all the time. We know nothing about obsession. We know everything about consistency. We know nothing about stubbornness. That we know incredible amount about dedication, and he goes on and on in the world, and it's surrounded by this territory of common sense and harshness, because we need to imply, imply, implying, imply, um, and also just kind of grazing your stamp, your your stamp that was so solid, going like boom, this is the stamp. Now it's like you pull. It's like a different kind of a brush stroke, like a grindy brush stroke that you can also hear the title of the next musical piece implementing this stroke with pigment and everything instead of, and the difference is incredible. The difference is absolutely incredible, because it must be. You didn't go here, and you didn't go there, and you didn't go there, and you didn't go here, and you didn't go here, and you didn't go here, and you didn't go there, and you didn't go there, and you didn't go here. Then you went here, and you went there, and you went there, and you went there, and you went here, and you went here, and you went here, and you went there, and you went there, and you went here, and you went there, and you went here, you went here, you went there, and you went here. That's what it's all about. So if also you're really ready, then all of these is really responsible for something that's happening that you know immediately you have to get out of the picture, out of the frame, in order to ensure a conclusion, that which will bring it to a real level of fruition, a real level of that which is represents fruition, and you have to familiarize yourself with the taste bud that will define it and will be going hand in hand with it. So you must be sitting there and saying, "Ah, God help me, this guy is like, where, what, how," and maybe not. I would hope that you won't, but I wouldn't be surprised if you are. And so I'm sure you managed to realize that sometimes things are just like traveling. They travel too fast, and you have to. And the only there cannot be any attempt taking place in order to achieve anything concerning grabbing a bit of it, so we can have something to work with, because it's traveling so fast. But then you realize, just extend your hand, and it's there. Close your, extend your hand, grab, and bring it back in. And whatever it is, you don't even have to check what it is that you brought, that you managed to catch. It's doable. It's qualified. It's it would be accepted. It won't be denied. You're guaranteed. You're good to go. Just evaluate how much time you have. And I don't think that we can kind of underestimate its importance. But uh, that level of importance is something that you should work more on, more than just about anything, because you manage to be able to shift to a mode that represents the need for seriousness to kick in order for the system to start thriving, and maybe taking wider steps, deeper steps, more meaningful turns and turns, and the pre-established concept of the real important things of why you're doing all this to begin with is being put aside long time ago, because it's a part of who you are. It doesn't operate outside yourself. So every move you take, it's actually addressing that and so much more. Believe in that. You have nothing to lose. Believe in the art that is being created on planet Earth. Some of it is yours. You don't even know. And maybe it's about time for you to kind of find out about yourself and look at the stuff that it represents you with more kind of favorable eyes and be kind to yourself. And of course, by doing so, automatically you'll become very, very kind to the immediate surrounding. But you already know these things. That's the beauty of it. Remind yourself that you already know. You already know a lot about the things that are uh, dumbfounding by nature, by their own nature, and so much more in that territory of vagueness and fogginess and all this. Yeah, so what? Why would we expect for it not to be a part of everything, a part of whatever? There. Why? With no reason in the world for us to be surprised when we bump into it. So that level of sophistication is at its most availability uh, for people to grab and access and utilize and experiment and find out about the nature of that which makes it what it is, and sharpening your understanding of the scheme of things. Because when you get to your studio, I would really hope to God that you won't be there wasting your time. And maybe by doing so, you're wasting the time of the world. The world, I don't think, should tolerate any level of complacency. But in the same token, it's such a helpful entity. I turn to it more often than not. I get a lot of help from the energy that Mother Nature possesses within, and it's very generous when I need a bit of it, when I need to share to have nature share with me, and I mean, and of course, in my own ways to contribute to nature. And by saying that, I will say we're going to be here tomorrow as much as we were here yesterday, and as much as we're sitting here on Tuesday morning, March 26th, year 2024, here with the Hello Hello Show. And and I want to thank you for listening and for being uh, so kind and so accommodating. And don't be a stranger, and make it your business to come and check out all these wonderful art exhibitions that we have. More information to come. Take care. We'll see you soon.